Venezuela is deeply divided, and for the past few weeks anti-government protests have been sporadically happening across the country. This week they claimed their first lives on both sides of the debate. The protesters accuse the government of corruption and failing to do enough to reduce crime or deal with economic problems. They also believe that the media is being censored. But President Nicolas Maduro has dismissed them as right-wing fascists and coup mongers. So what's going on in Venezuela? The leader of the main opposition on the streets is this guy, Leopoldo López. He's fronting the campaign under the banner La Salida, or the exit. And he says his aim is to force Maduro to step down, but only by legal means. He heads up the Popular Will Party and is a former mayor of a district of Caracas, and he was also educated in the United States. As always, it's a little bit more complicated than that, and there are other opposition groups that don't support López's campaign, and we will come to those later on. But what are the main gripes of the people on the street? Firstly, there's the political motivation. They accuse Maduro of ruling by decree. Last year, the president asked the National Assembly to grant him special decree powers. He said he needed them to fight corruption and improve the economy. The opposition countered that he would use them to undermine democracy and advance his agenda. It's worth noting that at the moment, Transparency International ranks Venezuela as the 16th most corrupt country in the world. And there are links in the video description if you want to find out more about how that's worked out. The thing is that Maduro was handpicked as the successor to Hugo Chavez. Chavez may have been painted as a dictatorial monster by some media outlets in the West, and he was widely accused of silencing his political opposition. But he did also reduce poverty in Venezuela by more than 20% between 2002 and 2010. And Venezuela also had the best ranking for socio-economic equality in the entirety of South America. So Chavez enjoyed widespread popular support at home, partly because of that record, and partly because he stood up against Western neoliberalism.
Yesterday, the devil came here. Right here.
En este mismo lugar,
right here.
Huele a azufre todavía.
And it smells of sulfur still today.
Maduro, on the other hand, only won the elections by a 1.5% margin. He promised to maintain Chavez's legacy, but he doesn't have the same popular support. Then there's the economic motivation. Venezuela has annual inflation of over 56% and has been crippled by shortages of basic daily necessities like flour and toilet paper. People have reported having to queue for hours to get even staple products. The shortages are also hitting newspapers, which can't find the paper to print on. Several local publications have already been forced to shut down, and major national ones have had to reduce their size just to keep themselves in business. They say that Maduro is trying to force the papers that question his policies out of business while funding pro-government publications. And Maduro probably didn't help himself on that one by threatening to impose sanctions on media outlets that reported on the escalating violence. There's also the NTN24 news channel, which says it was taken off air because it decided to cover the protests. And then you've got the crime motivation as well. Venezuela has one of the world's highest rates for violent crime and murder. The protesters simply want to see that reduced with added security. But of course, as we said earlier, it's not that simple. Enrique Capriles is another opposition leader. In fact, he's the primary opposition leader. He came closest to defeating Maduro in the 2013 elections. He initially refused to endorse the protests, saying that he wants to build his party's presence in local government and attempt to win the next elections in 2019. Many of Capriles' supporters believe that López and the exit campaign have no clear strategy and could actually end up doing more harm than good. Then there's the fact that despite the problems, Maduro does still have his supporters. There's an allowance in the Venezuelan constitution which lets the electorate recall a president halfway through his or her term. that's 2016 in this case, as long as there are 4 million signatures on a petition. The trouble, according to Lopez, is that that might be too far away. He said this is David versus Goliath. Venezuela is getting darker and darker in terms of the kind of future we can have.